Everyone's favorite ranking is finally here. Let's get into our top 12 wide receivers.
Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. This is my co host, Dale Terry, and we're back with another podcast. This is the new format we're doing this week, so thank you guys for checking out the video. If this is your first time, subscribe to the channel so you can hear all of our content that we're putting out. We're changing things up just a little bit, like I talked about in a couple of my solo videos. But Mondays are going to be more the solo as we continue on with our life journeys of getting ready for our new babies that are coming here in a couple of months. So Mondays will be more of a solo podcast with just me. Wednesdays and Fridays are going to be with Dale. Wednesdays are going to be a little bit more of a heavier topic. And then Fridays, we're going to try and have a little bit of fun with the fantasy recap. So that's a new format. If this is your first one, thank you guys again for checking us out. But that said, Dale, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. We are definitely doing this after dark tonight. So
We'll
feeling
try
great,
and
feeling spunky, and I am very excited to talk about everyone's favorite position, fantasy football, wide receiver.
there you go. And it's tough for me because I'm a little bit of a gamer, right? And I like to play. I've been playing Pal World. I don't know if you've heard about this game, but it's basically like Pokemon for adults, right? Where you get to like kill them and
Right.
use them for slave labor and all kinds of stuff. It's really
There
fun.
you go.
And I've been there's a new patch coming out here in a couple weeks, and I've been getting back into the game. That game is so freaking addictive, man. It is insane. I forgot how addicting it was. So that's what it's calling to me. It's calling to me. So instead, we're recording this podcast, trying to bring some good content for you guys, the people, and hopefully you like it. So let us know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Again, subscribe to the channel if you want more of this content, and we'll get into it. So really quickly, you can find us over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale, and at FF After Dark for the podcast itself. And yeah, I'm excited, man. Everyone loves wide receivers. It's always a fun topic. Everyone loves to argue why we're idiots for having people where we have them, but it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. So, any thoughts before we get into the rankings?
Hey, no, I fully agree with that. I honestly feel that we're getting more and more wide receiver one talent wide receivers coming into the league, and I honestly feel that 16 players that could, a solid 16 players that could be the wide receiver.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Nuts.
Dale and I were joking. Literally, our 13 through 16 are the same four players in opposite order, and so they just barely missed out on top 12. But I could see all of those guys making the strong case to finish as a top 12 guy. So the beauty of wide receiver, right, where it's just such a deep field now that you just love it. And it's easier than ever. I feel like right now it's the time to zig instead of zag, where I find myself in a lot of leagues not really investing in these top tier guys because it's so deep. Now, if you have the guys and we're going to start at 12 and work our way down to 1 here today, but if you have the guys, the top 3, top 4 maybe, those are the week winning guys. Those are guys that are going to carry you to a championship almost single-handedly on their back, right? But the rest of these guys, if you're at the bottom end here, and maybe number 12 should be up there, but due to age, that's why, a little spoiler there. But they're guys that I think are capable of really producing week in and week out, but they're not league winning necessarily. And that's where a lot of these like 18 to 20 guys are just so much more interesting just because they're cheaper, right? And that's the biggest draw for them. So, how do you feel about the wide receivers as a whole? Do you have the same sentiment?
Yeah, no, I agree. I do agree with you. Like it's easy to pick, a wide receiver one.
Right.
It's compared to any other position. I like I almost feel it's like the quarterback and super flex. Like you're gonna have a couple good wide receivers on your squad. I don't feel regardless, but like you're
Mm-hmm.
almost guaranteed to have solid wide receivers on your team. And like it does get a little more tense when there's, like you're starting three wide receivers, all those different formats.
Right.
But I do feel it's I want to say it's easy, but it's easier to have a stud wide receiver compared to a stud running back,
Hmm.
tight end especially. So
I mean, you go down the list, right? And we were just looking a little bit before the podcast, but you go down to wide receiver, and I'm just scrolling, right? Wide receiver 41, Christian Watson. Yeah, I can see the world where Christian Watson is just a league winner this year, right? And he's wide
yeah,
receiver 41 consensus ranking.
nuts.
Amari Cooper 39, Cooper Kupp 34, Stephon Diggs, Keon Coleman. If he could be the guy that everybody wants him to be at 32, like it's so deep, and that's where a lot of these guys aren't going to do that. Christian Watson could have hamstring injuries and never, really become a reliable guy. So there's the risk with these guys, but it's just you can make the case for almost all of them. So that's
Mhm.
what's great about fantasy, but especially the wide receivers. But
It's terrifying.
yeah, it's very sharp, right? That's where a lot of your money is going to be made. So let's jump into the rankings here, and we're going to start with number 12. And we both agreed to put him here at 12. And we're going to be giving you guys our consensus rankings just between the two of us, where we took an average of our two rankings on these guys, and Tyreek Hill is somebody that I didn't know how to rank because he comes in at number 12, was amazing last year. He was the Dynasty wide receiver number 2 last year, 2 the year before. Both years in Miami, he's been top 3. He's been 2 overall. Absolutely insane. Started off on fire. Had 170 targets in both seasons, 119 catches in both seasons, 1,700 yards in both seasons. Like, it's just this year he had the touchdown upside, 13 versus 7. But very good player. 30 years old. He'll be 31, I think, before the start of the season. And he said he wants to retire, I think, after this season or next season. I can't remember which one it was.
I think it's after the 25 season.
Okay, yeah. So he's got 2 seasons left, according to him, right? And he's older. The receiver age cliff does happen. They just paid
It does.
his teammate, not Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, a ton of money.
Yeah.
So Tyreek Hill, should he be higher? That's the biggest question, right?
I feel it's in his name, Tyreek the Freak.
Yeah, right.
He is the fastest dude. Well, one of the fastest dudes on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I mean, I had him ranked at wide receiver 8. Honestly could have put him much higher, but
Right.
I do agree with the unknowns of his potential retirement in 2 years. Like, if you're in a startup, you may not want to invest in him because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you have him on your squad, keep him, run with it. He's gonna be great. He's gonna be
Right.
fantastic. I don't think he's gonna fall off really anytime soon. Speed kills obviously, and speed's not something that you taught. Like he's just gonna
No,
have that. So
he's so fast. You
he's so
cannot
fast.
teach that
He's so
speed.
fast.
And
No,
like,
no, you can't.
you look at his actual value right now, and his value is the 102 to 103. He's consensus wide receiver number 9 overall on the big boards, not on our boards. And he's worth basically the 103 or Kyler Murray in a super flex or Sam Laporta in a non-tight end premium, which is kind of funny. Like, is anybody going to do that trade? I doubt it. I doubt it.
Doubt it.
But like you look at the running backs that he's worth, and it's, man, it would take a lot for someone to give up a running back. Like you're in the value range of the young studs, and it's just nobody's going to pay that for Tyreek Hill at this age. So he's a very good player if you have him. If you don't, it's like, man, are you really going to give up a fortune to go and get him? Or are you going to just, at the 103, take the guy that we both have ahead of him, which is going to be Malik Neighbors, right? Who comes in at number 11 for us. I would personally take Malik, and I know this is ageism at its finest, but I just think that you have the potential for a decade more of Malik Neighbors, where
That's true.
2 years of Tyreek, and he's over 30. The age cliff for receivers used to be 28. Like, it used to be 28.
Right.
And these guys are just
Well,
freaks, man.
I will challenge that in saying, like, who's throwing Malik Neighbors?
I don't think it matters.
I think it does a little bit. I mean, obviously he had Jaden Daniels
Right.
throwing him the ball at LSU, and it was the redshirt senior year of Daniels compared to the redshirt junior year was a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Schematically stuff like that. So it does matter. It does matter how these players progress.
Mm-hmm.
I do hear that argument. I mean, I think I would be tempted to pick Tyreek. I probably would still lean Neighbors, but I would be tempted. I would be tempted to take Tyreek because I know he's going to have two fantastic.
Oh, right. And it's like this year, if you told me that he finished if he pushed 1,800 yards again, I would not be shocked. If he had
Nope,
10 touchdowns, I would not be shocked.
nope.
But I do think that this team wants to prepare to transition away from him
Yes,
eventually.
yes,
And
they do.
with the contract situation, I think he has 2 years left on his contract, and that's when he was saying, when this contract's done, I'm retiring. But you heard him complaining after Jalen Waddle. They're paying Jalen Waddle more money than they are Tyreek Hill, and I don't think that's an accident at this point. And I
No,
do think that they took Jalen Waddle 5 overall, 6 overall, I think it was
six,
6
six.
overall
It was
in that draft class, and people kind of seem to forget that, but he is the future of this team. And I do think that that transition is going to happen eventually. Now, maybe it's not this year. Maybe, again, Tyreek Hill is a league winner at 30 years old. But at 31, man, is he really going to be the same Tyreek? Possibly. But, man, at Jalen or Malik Neighbors isn't even 21 yet. Like, he's not even 21. And I get it, the whole argument about who's throwing him the ball. But we saw from Justin Jefferson last year, he had, I don't even remember who was throwing him the ball in the last month of the season, but it didn't matter. The dude still went off for like 100 fantasy points in 4 weeks. Like, it was just absolutely nuts. If you get the volume, sometimes it just doesn't matter. And that's what Tyreek Hill has been able to do with 170 targets the last 2 years is insane volume, right? But yeah, Malik Neighbors, I do believe that he's in line for a boatload of targets, and he's
a lot, a
kind of the
lot.
forgotten man. We're going to talk about the guy that was drafted ahead of him here in just a little bit, but I love Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think that he has a path for an amazing year in 2024, but I do think that Malik Neighbors is being overlooked. And you see these OTAs, and I get it, it's pads and all that stuff, but man, he just makes catching the ball look so easy. It is so easy. And that's where, let's say he gets 140 targets as a rookie. Yeah, they're Daniel Jones targets. Not great. It's not great. Or it's Drew Lock. I don't think Drew Lock's that bad. I don't think 140 targets for a rookie is a bad sign. And then you have all those future years. I just think he's going to be a permanent namestay for a long time in the NFL. And that's why I'd be taking Neighbors over Tyreek personally.
Yeah, and I agree, and I get that, and I did have Neighbors below Tyreek, but
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's I know what I'm getting out of Hill. I
Yeah,
don't necessarily know what I'm getting out of Neighbors quite yet. I
right.
do agree Neighbors is a fantastic prospect. I think he's going to get a crap ton of opportunities, targets. I don't I don't know what Dayball's got up his sleeve, but he better have something to
Like,
be able to keep his job.
dude, I, d-
For one.
I just don't know if and I know that it's a completely different game from college to NFL, but legitimately, we were just talking about speed with Tyreek Hill. Blake Neighbors is so fast, man. He is so fast. He's going to create problems for cornerbacks, especially in the NFC, right? So I just think that it's gonna be hard to stop him. And I don't care if it's Daniel Jones or if it's rookie quarterback X next year, Quinn Ewers. I don't really care. I think that they're gonna make sure that this guy gets fed, and that's where I like him for fantasy for the years to come. So, all right, let's go to our next guy. And now this is where it's getting tough, man. And it's splitting hairs so much. And I agree with this. One of my top 12 guys did not make our consensus top 12 because Dale's a hater, hates him. I actually had DJ Moore as a top 12 guy. really quickly, I'm just gonna give my standing on DJ Moore because we're not really gonna talk about him much, and because you don't have him up there at all. But the dude was the wide receiver 6 last year. I just I don't see the volume changing that much. He had 136 targets last year with Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent. And I just kind of talked about this with my Chicago Bears breakdown that I dropped on Monday. But, 136 targets, I don't think that that's going to drop too drastically. I think Caleb Williams can definitely get him that much volume, 96 catches, 1,350 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Like, it seems like it's kind of his floor almost this year. So with better quarterback play, I know we both still like Justin Fields, but there's no argument that Caleb Williams is just a better passer of the ball right now. And DJ Moore, he feels like he's the forgotten man he's also the wide receiver 19 consensus. So he feels a little bit undervalued in my opinion.
And I definitely hear that. I think my thing, it's a rookie quarterback. There's a lot
Right.
of mouths to feed.
I get it.
I think they're going to be a little bit. I don't think they're going to be run heavy, but they're
Right.
going to run the ball.
Right.
So
I used and this is what I talked about in my breakdown of the Bears, but I used 2022 Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks as a 1-to-1 comparison because it's the same OC. Geno, not really a rookie, but kind of coming back from comeback player of the year that year. So, it's a little bit of a similar situation. So if you told me that Caleb Williams is about 2022 Geno Smith, I would not be shocked. So, so that's why I used it as a 1-to-1 comparison. And the number surprised me a little bit. So, make sure you guys go check that video out and hear my breakdown of the whole Bears offense there. So, all right, Chris Olave is actually our number 10 guy. We both had him. I liked him a little bit more than DJ Moore. He's my number 10. I forget where he was on your list. Was he your 10 as well?
12.
Well, okay, so you're a little bit lower. The years of New Orleans has kind of scarred you. I'm a big New Orleans hater, so the fact that I'm higher on Chris Olave is shocking.
It's scaring me right now.
It's shocking.
I'm terrified.
But, last year, as a sophomore, finished as the wide receiver number 16, 138 targets, 87 catches for 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns. This is with Derek Carr, and I'm about to be an apologist for Derek Carr, which it makes me sick. My stomach is feeling.
Don't do it, Calvin.
It's feeling queasy. I don't know how to accept this. I'm feeling a little off. But Derek Carr, he's a veteran around the NFL, but I feel like a lot of people forget that was his first year with New Orleans. New offensive coordinator, new system, everything like that. Usually it takes a little bit of time. And I do think that we have to give him a little bit of a grace period. You look at the back half of last year, Derek Carr was much better than the first half, right? And
true.
Chris Olave was cooking last year. Finished as the wide receiver 16 in 16 games, right? He did miss a game as well in there. So I wonder how much higher he would have finished if he would have played that extra game, gotten an extra 15, 20 points, whatever it was. And he could have been pushing for a top 12 guy. I think that he's a perfect post-hype sleeper right now because everyone was so hot on Chris Olave last year, and I just did not see the path that everyone else saw. Didn't play out that way, kind of like we predicted, but now people are kind of fading him a little bit too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I hear that. I think, again, it's who's throwing him the ball. I guess I'm a little hypocritical because I do have Neighbors ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just
Neighbors is a different skill set, but yeah, I get it.
He is. And I don't know, I think he can be fringe top 12. I just don't see. I see Chris Olave being like wide receiver, which isn't bad.
Right.
Isn't bad. That's a very, very solid wide receiver. I wouldn't say that this is a ceiling, but I think this is kind of about where he's going to land year in, year out.
Right. And the reason why I like Chris Olave a little bit more than Neighbors as of right now. So I trust Derek Carr more than I trust Daniel Jones, which again makes me feel a little queasy, a little sick.
That's a very fair assessment, though.
But I do think that, Chris Olave feels like he has a higher floor than Malik Neighbors. I think that Malik Neighbors has a much higher ceiling. He is such an explosive athlete that he's going to create problems. But I do think it's going it's going to be a little spotty, especially in year one, right? Where Chris Olave this year, for sure, I think he's going to be the much safer asset. And if he takes a step up with Derek Carr, again, you saw a little bit better rapport towards the back half of the season. But if he can get that little extra bit with Derek Carr this year, and he finishes as a top 12 guy, I think you're just buying him at perfect value where, you're not overpaying and you're getting a good, solid, long-term asset in Chris Olave. So I do like that. And, I like it's funny to me because you look at it and he's one behind Malik Nabers in consensus, just like you had him as well, right? I think like maybe one or two behind him. But if you offered that trade, 0 people are going to take that. Like,
Right.
I feel like Neighbors' value is so much higher than what it's actually being portrayed in a rankings and dynasty rankings, because the gap in those two players is just massive. Nobody wants to give up Chris Olave for Malik Neighbors, or Malik Neighbors for Chris Olave. I mean, so I do feel like it's a little bit bigger of a gap than it should be, and that's why I like Chris Olave a little bit more than consensus. So I'm a little surprised by that, but not majorly, I guess. Rookie-itis, man, or what is it, rookie fever?
It is. It is, and I get it, and like there are people that are really hyped about these rookies, and some of them stick, some of them won't, and we'll have some guys that, will kind of go back to the mean and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying with Olave, with your ranking. I kind of feel he's gonna be around in between. I mean, what he averaged to 11,
Right.
like wide receiver 11. So
Right.
I think
Right.
that's a very fair assessment for him.
Yeah.
You
We're
know,
right in
I
line
don't
with
think
consensus too. So
yes, and I don't think he's I think year in, year out, I don't think he's gonna finish much higher than.
yeah. Yep. I'm with you. I don't think he has that top 5 like some of these other guys.
No, he
And
doesn't.
now this is a little bit more of a projection, but this next guy who we have at number 9, I do think has top 5 potential. With the new quarterback that's coming in, I am drooling over this. I'm trying to keep myself in check. I'm trying to be level headed with this. I only have him ranked at 8, but I want to put him up there. I really do. But
I know
Drake
you would.
London with the Atlanta Falcons is, dude. Is there a better quarterback for him? I mean, come on.
Calvin gets hot and bothered when he starts talking
Kirk Cousins, brother.
Anything Kirk Cousins. Calvin's hot and bothered. He's been that way for years. I
think Kirk Cousins has always been underrated. He's a very
I will
capable
say
quarterback.
I look at Kirk Cousins very much in a football lens sometimes, and that he's not winning you the championships, fantasy championships. That man can win you one.
Dude, I think it's because like my first year in
Fantastic.
fantasy football, I remember I had Kirk Cousins, and I won the title because he was throwing touchdowns. He threw like 3 touchdowns to Jordan Reed, I think it was.
Gosh.
And I had both of those guys
Reed.
in my starting lineup in the championship, and I just had the double stack at tight end where Reed was just a monster back in the day. And yeah, Kirk Cousins has just won me over ever since. My uncle was a Redskins fan at the time, and now Commanders. But it's just Kirk Cousins has always been underrated, and what his yardage and his stats, man, are insane. You look at what the Atlanta Falcons and Drake London's had to deal with so far. He didn't get to play with Matt Ryan. He did not get to play with Matt Ryan. I feel like people forget this.
It was Marcus Mariota and the Desmond Ritter experience.
Yes. Yep. He missed out on 1 year.
Bad.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah.
Not that Matt Ryan would have been that good, but I think he would have been better.
A step better, yeah.
Yeah, than those two guys. But, through 2 years, he's averaging about 113 targets per year. Not great. This is Arthur Smith offense again. Now he gets a West Coast with, I forget the name, Zach Robinson, I think, is the guy.
Yes. Yep.
And he gets Kirk Cousins, the perfect quarterback that loves to throw the ball, is going to have 4,000 yards, given health, right? Again. None of these guys that have been playing here, they were lucky to push 3,000 yards, right? That's an extra 1,000 yards of offense to go around to everybody on this team. You look at it, the target competition, they did sign, they brought in Darnell Mooney to be opposite him as the number 2. They have Rondale Moore. They have Ray McLeod, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. There's not a ton of target opportunity or like target sharing that he needs to do. Kirk Cousins will feed this guy and feed him heavy. And I am so here for it. He is being so undervalued, in my opinion. And, this is, again, where I'm trying to keep myself in check. He is raised like crazy over the last couple months.
Really has.
Before Kirk Cousins signing, he was the wide receiver 23. He is now the wide receiver 13. He's gone up 10 spots just because of the quarterback. And I think he has top 5 potential. Tell me why I'm crazy, Dale.
I don't think that's crazy. I think I just think we just haven't seen it from him. Like we've seen little blips, stuff
Right.
like that, but I do think this is his best opportunity, be a potential top 5. I mean, I can see him definitely being top 10.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting how Kirk plays. I think that's going to be the biggest thing is Kirk's health because
Mm-hmm.
it's behind Kirk. They have Michael Penix, but he's a rookie,
Mm.
and they have Taylor Heineke.
I
So
mean, dude.
I think I'm not saying it's a giant step back, but it is a pretty big step back with those guys. So I think London has his best chance of success, but
Yes.
I think the caveat is if he has Kirk Cousins, he'll do great. He'll have a fantastic season. If Kirk is up and down, which for last year, Kirk was on a tear. Was on a
Mm-hmm.
on a tear.
Yes.
It was wild. So, I think,
Still, though.
but that was also with an offense, like a defense in Minnesota that was horrific. That was
Right.
really bad. And I think this Atlanta defense has taken some strides
Yeah, I
and
do.
this and stuff. I
But
mean,
if they're
it's projected to be better. So
Yeah.
they
If they're
they
averaging
they may
28
not.
points a week, I don't know if it really matters too much. You know what I
That's
mean?
true. That's true. And then you have the Bijan factor, which I know Kirk Cousins likes Bijan. There's Pitts there. Like I get there's a lot of yards to be thrown around,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But
I just think
I
that
mean,
I think it's
yeah,
underrated too, the Arthur Smith factor, right? Like I'm just
yeah,
looking I
yep,
was looking back at Kyle Pitt's log. Week 1 against Carolina, 1 target. Like
yep,
what are you doing, man? Like
yep.
what are we doing? And then there's games where it's 4 targets. Like he's your number 1. You don't have other guys and you have 4 targets in a game. 3 targets against Carolina. Again, he's not getting shut down by JC Horn.
Uh,
That's not why he's not getting targets. It's just bad game plan. And that's where I do think that Zach Robinson is going to be no nonsense with that. And Kirk
yep,
Cousins isn't going to put up with that. Like, no, Drake London's 6'4". The guy has 6 touchdowns in 2 years. He has like no red zone opportunities or targets. Like, it was just a bad offense. And dude, if he gets up to 6 touchdowns with 1,500 yards, I would not be shocked. So, like, yeah, I'm excited. Drake London.
yeah. No, I am too. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm on my end.
Oh, dude, my pants are off. Let's go. Let's
Whoa,
go.
whoa, whoa, Calvin.
Let's go. All right,
All
let's
right.
go to our next guy. Yeah, let's go right on to the next guy. Puka Nakua with the Rams. Now, this is the scariest one because what was he? 5th round pick, I think, right? 5th round pick for Puka Nakua.
Around that, yeah.
Finishes as the wide receiver number 4 last year as a rookie, 160 targets as a rookie. And you're like, oh, this is what Malik Neighbors could do. Yeah, I guess that is true. He doesn't have Matt Stafford, but, 105 catches for 1,500 yards and 6 touchdowns as a rookie, dude. That's insane.
That's wild.
Insane. So, Puka Nakua, very good player. Came out of nowhere, seemingly, to be a superstar. Sean McVay loves this guy, right?
Yep.
Are we being too crazy? Are we being too low? I mean, he finished as the wide receiver 4 last year.
I mean, I get it. I get the hype. I don't know. I think if Stafford wasn't there, I don't know how well this offense would have ran to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel they would have been probably one of the, I wouldn't say one of the worst teams, but pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a life without Stafford is going to be tough for Nakua,
Yeah.
or at least tougher. All depending on who the
I mean,
replacement is. So
Stafford might play for another 3 years. Like we have
he
no
could.
idea.
He very well could. He very well could. But I know for him, the injuries are piling up.
Yeah.
Have been piling up over the last few years. Having a neck, back injury, like that's not that's not something you mess with. So
Right.
I think that's my biggest worry, with Puka. I love what he did. He's fantastic. You know, I think I'm not saying buyer beware. Just be aware that Stafford may not be for long.
Right.
And
Stafford's a very good quarterback. Again, just like
yes,
Kirk
he's a
Cousins,
very
very underrated for most of his career. I
100%.
think, if Kirk Cousins has kind of a Stafford route where, with, let's say, for example, with the Falcons this year that they win the Super Bowl, people will feel about Kirk Cousins how they feel about Matt Stafford. And,
Agreed.
um,
Agreed.
you cannot overstate how important someone like a Matt Stafford is to this offense. So I agree with you there on that aspect, but I think that I have just enough trust in Sean McVay to make it not matter. I mean, you look at
Yes.
he was winning games with Baker Mayfield just a couple years ago, and
He was. He
you were
was. It was
still able to
wild.
play Cooper Kupp in those games. So I just think that I'm less concerned, and I have more faith in Sean McVay. I'm a little bit higher on Puka than you. I have him as my wide receiver number 5, so I have him really high. I have him one spot ahead of a guy we'll talk about here in a little bit, which is Marv. But you know, everyone's talking about how good Marv is going to be, and it's like, well, Puka just did what we want Marv to do as a
Yes.
rookie, and it's
100%.
like,
Yes.
how do you rank Marv ahead of him? That's where I
Yeah.
struggle, right? And it's
Yeah.
just, I
And no,
get it,
no,
but
I fully get that, but I guess I'm projecting, and
sure,
I like what Puka did, but I'm not saying the odds are stacked against them being that
right,
late of a round pick. I don't think that matters.
right, right,
So, I think what matters is, if he has Stafford for the next 2 or 3 years, like sign me up.
yeah,
Sign me up.
right.
But
Dude, he's such a
but
good player, so good.
yes,
He was so
he's
smooth,
yes.
man. Like it just, yeah, the fact that we
Yes.
all
So
like as a whole, I know a few people really love Puka, but it's like all those people are like, oh yeah, I was really high on Puka. Like so many people are like, oh yeah, I was so high on
uh,
Puka. Bull crap, dude.
nobody
Everybody missed on him.
hardly anybody
He
was.
was a fourth
I
round
mean,
pick in rookie
I
draft
know.
for a
I know.
reason, guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Yes. Yes.
yep,
And there was reason behind it, and it
yep,
popped off.
yep.
And
He's
I
Antonio
don't think.
Brown essentially.
Yes. Yes. Well, and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, and Tyreek.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
in a way, with his draft capital. So, I don't think we're going to see another Puka Nakua for a
3 years at this rate. four
it's gonna be a
years.
very no, it's gonna be a very long time with,
Yeah.
with the production he had year one,
Oh yeah, that's gonna be. Well,
and
let's
stuff
see if
like
he
that.
can.
Like,
If he follows up in year 2 with similar production, that's where he
yes,
cements himself, right? That's where
100%,
there's no question
100%.
anymore.
Yes,
He
I very
belongs here,
100%
right?
agree with that. Yes, one
We'll
thousand
see
percent
because
agree.
Cooper Cup was banged up at the start of last year, so
Yes.
it's gonna be interesting to see
But
the.
also it didn't really. I mean, his some of his production went down a little bit, but not like a lot.
No,
Was
no,
it?
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that. I'm just saying if I'm just curious how they'll use these two guys. Like
Yeah.
maybe they leaned on Puka more than they wanted to in year 1, and that's kind of why his stats were so high. But it'll be interesting to see if, well, he's earned it now. So do we just trust him and kind of give him that role?
Right.
So, all right, next guy, we have him tied with Puka, but it's going to be AJ Brown with the Eagles. AJ Brown, good player. I feel like he's suffering from a little bit of name fatigue at this point. He's only 26. Like, he's still a young player,
Wild.
dude. Or maybe I think his birthday is like this week. So he's about to turn 27. Just signed a massive contract extension, $96 million over 3 years with the Eagles. They bring in Kellen Moore to this offense. Are we concerned that this offense completely imploded at the end of last year? What's crazy is you look at the numbers, and I didn't even realize this was happening, but the last, except for the last couple weeks where they were kind of resting starters and things like that, like after their bye, 4 targets, 9 targets, 13, 13, 10, 11, 5. Like, he was still getting massive numbers, and it just didn't feel like it. You did not feel his
No.
production on the field, and I don't know if Kellen Moore saves this.
I think part of that was that in that time span, he only had one
Mm.
touchdown.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, so, but also in a whole, like, the whole Eagles offense looked
They
bad.
imploded. They imploded.
Yeah, they were bad. So, I think Saquon's taking targets from him, some,
Mm-hmm.
and in some opportunities.
They just signed
So
Devonta Smith to an
yeah.
extension.
So I mean, I'm not saying AJ Brown's not going to do well, but I kind of think I don't. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle of what we saw last year from him being this dominant wide receiver.
Mhm.
Have almost a guaranteed, like 125 and 8 receptions for a touchdown. It felt like every week.
Right.
To a guy that was 4 for 50, a touchdown every 3 weeks. Kind of thing. So
Right.
so I think it's gonna be somewhere in between. Where that lines up, with a dynasty or with a fantasy finish. I don't really know, but I mean, I think it could be top 12.
Right.
Like don't get me wrong,
For
but
me,
I don't know.
he just feels like he's priced at his ceiling, right? Where
Yes.
you don't have the potential. And we talked about this a little bit with like Drake London. If in a year's time you told me that Drake London was a top 5 dynasty wide receiver, I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't. Like I can see that path for him. AJ Brown, I just don't see the path, right? He's always going to have a solid, healthy number of touchdowns. Like that's just who he is. He's an explosive guy. He's a very good after the catch type of player. He busts off big runs. He's really thrived with Philadelphia coming over from Tennessee because of massive target volume, but again, you've got Devonta Smith, you've got Saquon Barkley, you've got Dallas Goedert, who's hopefully healthy most of the year. They bring in my boy Parrish Campbell. He's going to steal a lot of targets, a whole like 35 probably. But you also have Kellen Moore, who likes to run the ball a lot more. This team was not able to run the ball in the back half of last year when they started to implode. They're going to want to establish it a little bit more, in my opinion. And Kellen Moore's a jackass, man. Like he is the worst play caller in the world. So for me, it's just there's a lot of variables around AJ Brown where you don't have that with Drake London. Drake London's it's pure gas, baby. Let's go. Go. AJ Brown is like, there's this, there's this, I don't want to think about the negatives with him. And in reality, he's probably going to be wide receiver 6, wide receiver 8, somewhere in that range, but he's just priced at his ceiling.
He has a very real possibility of doing that, and I know. I just think I don't want to say there's necessarily there's more exciting guys, but like with how last year finished, there's just a bitter taste in people's
Yeah.
mouths
Yeah.
of how he did well in the Eagles as a whole.
And I just hate Kellen Moore. So.
I know you hate Kellen Moore with a
He's
fiery
so
passion.
bad, dude. He's so bad.
Yeah.
Eagles fans about to learn. What's that? Dude, we need to get that soundbite. You gonna learn today?
Yeah,
you gonna learn today. Oh, Eagles fans are about to be in for a rude awakening, and that city is one that can handle it well. I have full faith in them.
And two with that, it's gonna be interesting. I know I think I talked about this, early in the offseason, but like losing Jason Kelsey is gonna be huge.
Yeah, it will be.
It's gonna be It's gonna be massive for that team. I mean, I don't think they're necessarily gonna struggle, but I think they're gonna regress this year.
Oh, for sure. I agree. I agree 100%. So AJ Brown, he's number 7, tied with Puka. Honestly, he's a little bit lower. I would rather have the number 5 guy that we're going to talk about here in just a minute over him, but he's solid. He's a good player. I just prefer some of these other guys for the potential upside as top 5 guy, and that's pretty much it. All right. Speaking of a potential top 5 guy, we were robbed of this last year because of Zach Wilson, but Garrett Wilson is number 6 for us, and I'm a little bit lower. I have him at 9. You're higher. I think you have him at like 4. I think, right?
I love me some.
I know you do, brother.
Love me.
He's good, but that's put a lot of faith in Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and that's what scares the shit.
You are also putting a lot of faith in Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. Drake London.
Yeah, but I also like Michael Penix. Like I think they have a backup plan and a good offensive coordinator.
I don't disagree with that.
The Jets are gonna jet, baby.
I know, and that's why I've always been worried about the Jets. But I love me some Garrett Wilson.
He's a good player, very good.
He's fantastic. I feel he's good almost anywhere. I'm glad he got some more targets this year and some. I mean, they were at least mildly more catchable targets.
He had 168 targets last year, 95 catches for 1,000 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yeah, and honestly, those 168 of some of the worst targets you're ever gonna see
Yeah.
for a
So
player.
so 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 if Aaron Rodgers is there,
Yeah.
he's he's gonna make this guy
Oh, yeah.
to the moon,
I'm with you.
baby, to the moon,
I'm with
to the
you.
moon, all gas, all gas. But
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
but yeah, it's all depending on If Aaron Rodgers is there, he's healthy,
Hmm.
he's in it. He's gonna make this guy a star.
Hey, when Robert Kennedy becomes president, and picks Aaron Rodgers as
Oh
VP,
my gosh,
we're gonna have a problem here. But no,
it's true, but
yeah,
still,
the problem for me is just you compare him a little bit to Drake London and Kirk Cousins, same injury as Aaron Rodgers, the Achilles coming off of that. But again, for me, the fallback is what is the biggest differentiator between these, and why I have Drake London one spot ahead of Garrett Wilson, and this is the main reason why is if both of these guys go down, if Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins goes down, who do both teams go to? I don't even know who the backup quarterback is for this team right now. Tyrod Taylor. I don't trust Tyrod Taylor to be fantasy relevant, right? Michael Penix Jr.
Right.
I actually think he can feed. I think he's a very good passer of the football, where Tyrod's more of a game manager, where as Michael Penix can be a gunslinger, right? We saw that in college. And then you fall back to the offensive coordinators. We really going with what's his face again? What is his name? I can see his face, but I just can't think of his name.
Blur, is that who you're talking about?
No. They got rid of him.
No.
It's the old Denver coach, Nathaniel Hackett.
Oh,
Nathaniel Hackett. We're really gonna trust Nathaniel Hackett to run this offense.
I will say, I think for me, in my head, I know the talent of Garrett Wilson.
Right.
I know what I'm getting. I feel confident in that.
Yeah.
If he just gets the ball in his vicinity,
Yeah.
he'll do well.
Yeah.
That's all I need. That's literally all I need.
Dude, it's just hard to trust the Jets because they suck.
I don't disagree.
They suck.
Trust me. I love when the Jets are horrible. I love it. It brings me vast amounts of joy.
People were so mad last year when I said they weren't going to make playoffs. And okay, Aaron Rodgers getting injured after 4 snaps was unforeseen by me, but I was also right. They did not make playoffs.
That is true. But I mean, I love seeing the Jets struggle as a franchise.
Yeah.
But I love Garrett Wilson. I really love his talent. I do hear what you're saying is that, there's no backup after that. And I very much agree with that. But I love the talent in Garrett.
Fair enough. He has potential. Like you said, all gas. If Aaron Rodgers is there all year, I do think that Garrett Wilson's going to be special. It's scary. I'm trusting that team and that system. But
it's utterly terrifying.
In Aaron, we trust. Remember that when he runs for president in 4 years. But
I know.
All right, going to number 5, Marvin Harrison Jr. We've kind of hinted at it a little bit. Marv is a rookie.
Maserati Marv.
Yeah, dude, we love him. He's a good player. I've talked about him nonstop. I've done multiple breakdown solo videos talking about why Marv is going to be in line for basically a Puka Nacua season. I think that they're going to feed the ever-loving crap out of him this year. He's like guaranteed 140 targets as a rookie, which you can't get too many places. So Marv is going to be very good. Has potential for top 5 for a long period of time. Drafted, super high by the team, 3 overall. They're going to invest in him, and the competition is just non-existent, right? So
yeah, no, I agree. He was drafted 4th.
Was he 4? Oh, yeah, the quarterback. Yeah.
He was 4th.
Drake May.
And I'm gonna have to think of new nicknames for Marvin Harrison. I utterly despise Maserati Marv by Gus Johnson. Personally, I hate it. I got to hear it a lot last year, but I love Marvin Harrison Jr. I love him. He's fantastic. I think, just like I'm just gonna repeat what you said. He's gonna have a fantastic year. So as long as Kyler's throwing him the ball and not Desmond Ridder or Clayton Tune, I'm feeling. I mean, even at that, I'm still feeling pretty good. So
yeah, the target volume is just gonna be insane.
I feel though too. I'm a little concerned that he's going to get doubled quite a bit, and with the cornerback play in the NFL, it's more physical than the college game.
Yeah,
and it's just a higher tier of player.
Right.
So
I think his dad's got him ready though. I do.
Yeah, I agree. In playing against some of these higher quality
SEC
like
teams,
he did play, SEC teams.
He played Georgia this last year, didn't he?
And stuff like that. Like he played really well.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to bode well for him.
Yep. So Marv, very good player. Not a surprise.
Love him.
Not a
Love him.
surprise to anybody here. So we're gonna go to our top four, and we're gonna kind of talk about. So we're gonna hit number 4 here, and then we're gonna talk about the top 3 as kind of a grouping. That's how I kind of want to handle this. So number 4 for both of us is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's actually my number 3. You're number 5. I don't have the fact that he's my number 3 should be a little bit of a clue here, but yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, super solid player, super good player. Finishes number 3 last year, number 7 the year before. Jared Goff is just an amazing, like their connection is just otherworldly. And you know, I'm a sucker for PPR guys where you give me a quarterback's like safety valve and their favorite go-to in a pinch, and I am all in, right? I love those guys. I loved Keenan Allen with Phillip Rivers. You know, I loved, that's why I'm really high on Michael Pittman this upcoming year. I think that he's going to be a safety valve for AR or whoever's throwing the ball there for the Colts. And it's just, I love in PPR those type of players. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is that guy. You know, you look at his weekly game log and it's like, dude, I don't even, he is the smoothest 9 for 95 in the NFL right now. It's right. Insane. I don't even remember half these games where like he's got 7 for 112, 12 for 106, 6 for 90, 7 for 144. This is 4 weeks in a row. It's just like the dude is just so sneaky. He just puts up so many points. Like he's just so good.
Yes, no, and I completely agree. I mean, his season was helped by scoring 5 of the last 6 weeks.
Yeah,
you know, but
10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, still, great season. I think he's gonna. I wouldn't say he's necessarily gonna duplicate it, but he's gonna do something similar.
Right.
You know, like in the same vicinity of that. So you know, if that's he's, I wouldn't say he's guaranteed top 5, but he's gonna be pretty darn close.
He feels like he's one of the highest floor guys with a super, like his floor is most guys' ceiling, which is insane. Like he's just so good, man.
Agreed.
But he was Dale. Did you know he was a 4th round pick? Oh my gosh,
and
4th rounder.
And I think it's huge that like Detroit locked up these guys, and they're going to be with each other for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah,
that's
sucks for Hendon Hooker. My Hendon Hooker hype is dead and buried, but
it's bad.
It's not looking good, boys. It's not. Yeah. Hey, he's gonna have the Geno Smith year. You know, that's what we're hoping for.
Sure.
But yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, very good player. I like him a little bit more than our number 3, and this is where we'll get into our conversation here on the top 3. So number 3 for us is going to be Justin Jefferson. Number 2 is going to be Jamar Chase. Number 1 is going to be CeeDee Lamb. Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb are tied. You can switch those two. I'm going to switch those two because it matches my rankings. So number 1 is Jamar Chase. Number 2 is CeeDee Lamb. But I think that Justin Jefferson is going to be the biggest question mark here, right? And I just did a Will Justin Jefferson bust video. So you can go check out my full thoughts there. But to summarize them briefly here, it's not Justin Jefferson. Jefferson is a superstar. It's J.J. McCarthy. And I just think that J.J. McCarthy is not going to be able to sustain top 2 fantasy production that Justin Jefferson's been able to live off of with the guy that we really love, Kirk Cousins, right? Justin Jefferson's going to get a ton of targets. They're not going to be the best targets, but I do think that the days of 184 targets are gone. That is not going to happen with J.J. McCarthy, unfortunately. And you say, well, there's always year 2 with J.J. McCarthy. I don't think it's going to be in year 2. So if you're going to be talking about 3 years from now before Justin Jefferson can be back to what he was with Kirk Cousins, dude, I'm out. Like, not out. Like, obviously, I have him at my number 4 guy. But, like, I just think that his value is so overinflated right now that because of he's probably the best wide receiver in the NFL, but quarterback does play into that. And that's where I would just rather have some of these other guys over him because I think that they're safer. I like Jared Goff more than I like JJ McCarthy. I like Joe Burrow. I like Dak Prescott. I like all these guys a little bit more than JJ McCarthy. And I don't think the gap between like a CeeDee Lamb and a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson is as big as the gap between J.J. McCarthy and Jared Goff, for example.
Yeah, and I hear all that. I just know he's the best wide receiver.
He is the best. He is the best.
He's darn near close to, if not, yeah. So, you know, I hear those points, and I definitely feel them as a Justin Jefferson owner in a league. So, I hear all that. I think the big thing is, like, I know he's going to get a giant target share.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that it may not be like a Kirk Cousins target share by any
Mm-hmm.
means, and I know that, but he's going to get a lot of targets, Calvin. It's going to be a disgusting
35% of
amount.
300, man. It's 100
I know,
targets or 100
I know,
receptions. Sorry.
I know, I know, I know, but he can do wild stuff with
I
those.
know.
So,
I know.
so I hear what you're saying, and I understand the caution, but as long as he's healthy, fire him up.
Yeah, and obviously, again, I'm not that out on him. I still have him as my
Right,
number
right.
4 guy.
Yep,
It's just,
yep,
I think that
absolutely.
100 targets for you give Jamar Chase 100 receptions, and he's going to do a little bit more than Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, with JJ McCarthy. So, Justin, and ironically, Jamar Chase last year had 100 targets for less than, only had 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, but those were not Joe Burrow targets for most of the year. It was Jake Browning for about half the year, and not great. And it was banged up Joe Burrow to start the year. But, Jamar Chase, I think that this dude's just a superstar. CeeDee Lamb. So who did you have higher? You had CeeDee Lamb higher, right?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Make the case for
So
CeeDee Lamb versus Jamar Chase.
I feel that in Dallas, CD is the definite one. I know Chase is too,
Mm-hmm.
but I also know that Higgins is there. They
Maybe.
have he is there for next year.
Right. Right.
He's there for next year. I know since he doesn't like paying their players, Dallas doesn't like paying their players either.
Yep.
So, but with CD, I think that that team has to throw the ball to do something.
Yeah.
And I like
They have
Dak.
no running game
I
at
think
all.
they don't have a running. They barely have a running back. But that's beside the point. But I just feel really good about CD Lamb. What he did at the end of the year, it was fantastic. I'm not super worried about Joe Burrow's health, I would say, but I mean, we could say the same for Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, who's older. So I just feel better about what CD Lamb has done.
Mm-hmm.
I get the argument that younger, blah blah blah, kind of stuff like that. But um, I just I can see Chase having a couple blow up weeks, but I feel CD Lamb's going to eat every week because he has to, going to, So I can see him getting a consistent double digit targets every week. I don't really think Chase will get that every week.
Yeah, and that's where it's going to be interesting. Like you mentioned a little bit, and this is what scares me a little bit because Dallas is not known for being reliable. Jerry Jones is a little bit of
At
a
least, at least, I mean, the old saying, it felt like that like Jerry takes care of his players.
right.
It's feeling not like that. It's feeling a little odd that he's not paying some of these guys.
Yeah.
Like Lamb and Parsons don't have a contract, contract extension,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Lamb's gonna, but like who else is there for on Dallas that
Right.
would be relevant? Brandon Cook, the ghost of Brandon Cooks, who's been on 1,000 teams.
Jake
Jalen Told,
Ferguson,
Jake
Jake
Ferguson.
the
Yeah,
Snake.
but
Yeah.
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 So I'm not saying CD's gonna get 135 and uh you know uh 1,700 and 12 touchdowns. I don't think he may not necessarily get that,
Right.
but I mean, over the back half of the season, his
Oh,
his
it
least
was
amount of
insane
targets.
pace. Yeah. It was
Yeah,
insane.
his least amount of targets was 9. And
Yeah.
he still scored 16, he still scored 16 and a half points.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to get peppered every
12
week.
touchdowns is crazy. Like I
It is
don't know if that's
crazy.
that's sustainable.
I don't think he's going to do 12 again.
Yeah.
I can see him doing 8.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I could see 8.
he,
And then he's right there in that conversation. And now,
yeah,
obviously, you're splitting hairs here between him and Jamar
it
Chase.
is,
But
it
I was
is,
just looking at
and
the
it's very much splitting.
what scares me a little bit. And again, going back to this just quickly, but they have so many free agents next year. And, when you go back to what Jerry Jones said this offseason, oh, baby, we're all in this year. And all in Skip's ass, like he said. Um, all in. But the fact that they're not paying these guys, I was looking at their multi-year cap summary, right? Now, next year, it's a little bit tight. They're still paying quite a few people. They have $40 million dead cap next year that they're paying Dak Prescott for not being on the team as a player. They sign a contract with him that obviously disappears and it all gets reworked into it gets spread out over the length of the contract and everything like that. You take away that $40 million, they have $107 million already. You go to 2026, they're like number 1 in cap space. They have like no player signed. They have like 3 players signed in 2026. So their entire team is basically free agents. What I'm wondering is Jerry Jones, he said they're all in. If he's getting older, obviously, and his one goal is to win a Super Bowl. He just wants to get back there. If they don't do it, do you think there's ever the chance? Obviously, Mike McCarthy's fired. They're gonna give this roster to Bill Belichick and say, you have the most money, do whatever you want, buy any players you want. You have to go get a quarterback, you have to go get everything, but get whoever you want. Like, I'm just wondering if there's a real possibility that next year Dak Prescott is a free agent, because I think if they franchise tag him, if they don't sign him to a long-term contract, he's already been franchise tagged once, I think, with the team. And I think the way it works is he would now get the double franchise tag, which is an astronomical. It's like $65 million. Now, obviously they have money that they can pay that, but I think that the $40 million would still count against it. So it'd be basically $100 million against the cap. Not going to happen. So, if Dak Prescott's a free agent, they're obviously, this team does not pay wide receivers. They got rid of Amari Cooper because they were paying him, right? So if you're telling me, obviously if CeeDee Lamb was a free agent, there's no way. They would trade him for a haul. They'd franchise tag him and trade him for whatever they could.
Yep.
But it's just, to me, it's just crazy that there's a potential chance, non-zero chance, like maybe 5% chance in 2025, he could be on a new team with a whole new system and everything like that. So we love him so much because he's with Dak. That's why I'm a little nervous about him.
I think, and I get all that. I'm a little nervous about Jamar Chase's injury history. Like, he's never played a full season.
He played he played 16 last year. He played 16. He played 17 his rookie year, to be fair. So he did play a whole season that year.
Jamar Chase, well, yeah, he did play.
Yeah.
So, he's
I'm more worried about Joe Burrow's injury history, to be fair, but
right. Well, but I'm looking here at his. He may have played those games. Also, he wasn't in a few.
He was his lowest was 48%, and that was week 18 against Cleveland, where they just pulled the starters.
I'm on the wrong year.
Okay. But yeah, that's it.
But still, in general, I'm like he has played full, but still, I don't know. I just like what CeeDee Lamb's doing. He is the offense. The offense runs through him. It doesn't. I mean, I guess it does run through Jamar Chase, but I feel it runs more through CeeDee.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. And, for me, I just think that what Jamar Chase is able to do, I don't think they fully unlocked it yet. And you look at CeeDee Lamb, it did take him a little bit of time to really become that guy. Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb for the first 2 years was a little bit mediocre, to be fair. You get rid of Kellen Moore, and all of a sudden the dude's a superstar. Just saying. AJ Brown stands. Philadelphia, you're going to learn today. But, Jamar Chase, I do think that he's ready to take that next big step up in his fantasy production. And I think the team finally realizes that, and they understand that. A lot of it relies on Joe Burrow, though. If they don't have Joe Burrow for the full season, I don't know if Jamar Chase can live up to this value of being the number one guy. But I just see what he can do on the field, and it's just, to me, it's just like, man, Justin Jefferson's the number one wide receiver, but I think Jamar Chase is the number 2. Like, when you get the ball in his hands, it's crazy to see what he can do with it. And it just feels like he's underperformed for what people had faith in him to be able to do. But I just think that all you got to do is just see that one time, and he's just going to be locked and loaded from there on out. So I still believe in Jamar Chase, and maybe this is foolish of me, but I just think that he's ready for that next step where, you kind of alluded to it. The whole offense ran through CeeDee Lamb last year. Is that going to be able to happen again? If I'm any defensive coordinator worth their salt is going to say, yeah, that's not going to happen. We're going to shut down CeeDee Lamb. Can you? That's the question. But I do believe that they're going to try at least this year, whereas last year it was kind of we didn't realize how bad this was going to be for us. So, just a product of the environment of no running game whatsoever and,
right.
No other competition. So,
and I'm just going to say this. I am all in.
You're all in Skip's ass?
I am not. I am all in for CeeDee Lamb. I'm pushing all my chips in.
There you go. So, I do think that these three, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Jamar Chase, are the top. I think that they are the top three talented wide receivers. Marv has that potential to jump up there. Yep. Drake London is not talent-wise. I don't think he's up there. Garrett Wilson, I do believe, could be up there with a better situation, but it's the Jets, man. What is it? What is that movie? The Big Apple. The goddamn Jets.
It's Big Dad.
Big Daddy. Yeah. Big Daddy. Yes. But it's just
all day, every day, baby.
Yeah. It's just these guys are extremely talented. So, we're splitting hairs here, but let us know your thoughts on our rankings. Again, comment down below. Thank you guys for checking out the whole video with us. We appreciate it. And if you can, follow us again one more time on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at FF After Dark, and at Dynasty_Dale. I don't even think you tweet ever. If you do it, my feed is not curated to see your stuff, but
I usually don't. I usually I like to look at other people's stuff. I'm weird like
he's
that.
Just a watcher. But yeah, check out our Twitters. More importantly, though, subscribe to the channel. Hear all of our content all off season long. Again, we've got a new format coming out, so we're going to try it on Friday. We'll see how it goes. We're going to try and maybe do it live. I'm trying to get some animations. I'll do some homework on this and play around with it, but we're going to make sure it's going to be a fun one. So we're going to have fun with it. Hopefully you guys join us and check that video out. And then next Monday, I'll be back with another solo video. So whatever tickles my fancy is what I'll be talking about next week. So that said, thank you.
Hey, I'm just gonna guess it's probably gonna be about Drake London. I don't know.
No,
I'm joking.
Not yet.
I'm joking.
Not yet.
Hey, it's definitely gonna be there someday.
Yeah, I don't know what I want to talk about. There's so much. I love just
there is
the solo, the mono cast. Just me and my thoughts. So make sure you guys check out those videos. And again, thank you guys for checking us out. Any last thoughts, Dale?
Well, I do have one last thought. Punctuation is important, kid. Always remember that.
Just ask Skip. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, have a good night.
And we all got dreams. We all want things. But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?